If we had only known yesterday what we know today, or known yesterday that we didn't know then what we know today. Wait, what? It's Tuesday, November 27th, and this is Now. Joining me today, Mother Jones Washington Bureau Chief David Korn, Benjamin Wallace Wells of New York Magazine, MSNBC contributor and Queen Bee of thegrio.com, Joy Reid, and MSNBC political analyst and executive editor of MSNBC.com, our favorite import from the UK, Richard Wolff. After weeks of verbal assaults lobbed at U.S. UN Ambassador Susan Rice by Republican leaders, the ambassador went to Capitol Hill to sit down with her critics. Did her face-to-face clear up outstanding questions and put an end to the accusatory language? Judging by the initial reaction from Senators John McCain, Lindsey Graham, and Kelly Ayotte, not so much.
We are significantly troubled by many of the answers that we got and some that we didn't get.
Bottom line, I'm more disturbed now than I was before.
I want to say that I'm more troubled today, having met with the acting director of the CIA and Ambassador Rice.
Senator Ayotte seized on one of the biggest headlines from the meeting, that Ambassador Rice apparently admitted she was wrong.
Clearly, the impression that was given, the information given to the American people was wrong. In fact, Ambassador Rice said today, absolutely, it was wrong. And that's troubling to me as well, why she wouldn't have asked. I'm the person that doesn't know anything about this. I'm going on every single show.
Richard Wolff, shaman, explainer, reader of tea leaves that you are. How much of this is because President Obama would like to see Susan Rice as his Secretary of State?
Well, let's say 50%, and let's say
you're putting it at a fair 50.
I would say 50%, and I would say the other 50% is that Susan Rice is a proxy for this president. And I've said it before, I will say it again. There has been a witch hunt against every prominent person of color that has served alongside the president, and this is part of it. Now, there may be other serious things. There are, in fact, very really serious things, if that's actually English, about Benghazi.
Yes.
About Benghazi that they should be investigating. What is troubling is that 4 Foreign Service officers died. What is truly troubling, on top of that, is that these senators apparently believe that going on a talk show, even a series of Sunday talk shows, makes you responsible for the security of people in the field. They know that's not the case. They know that Susan Rice isn't the line manager responsible for security, didn't block the right security for these officials or funding thereof, that she's not part of the CIA. She was out there doing what they do on Sunday talk shows, which is talking about a whole range of subjects. I suspect that if you asked John McCain in an honest moment about whether he was truly expert in all the things he talks about in his many Sunday talk show appearances, he would say that occasionally he ventured into territory that he wasn't personally responsible for. And that's where you get into the question of why it's not just me, it's the op-ed board, the editorial board at the Washington Post that has said, this is bizarre. Why are they pursuing Susan Rice like this? There are very troubling questions about these senators and their witch hunt that they have engaged in.
David, John McCain said, I am upset by answers that were given and answers that were not given. He's just upset generally about everything that happened. I will ask, is this the best thing the Republicans have going for them? We have polling from CNN ORC that asks about a Benghazi cover-up. 42% of respondents believe there was a cover-up. 54% believe the statements reflected the information that the White House or that Susan Rice had at the time.
That poll gets to what the Republicans are trying to pull over here. They are trying to suggest that the issue is not what happened in Benghazi, not the death of people working for the American government, including the ambassador, and what the State Department did, what the CIA did or didn't do. They're trying to suggest that what's here is really a cover-up, that Barack Obama, right before the election, wanted to cover up well, something. I don't quite know what they're trying to cover up. But he didn't want it to be an act of terror. Actually, if he had come out and said this is an act of terrorism, it probably would go shooting up in the polls at the time. So there's no sense.
Well, he did in fact say it was
he did say it the next day. But there's no point. There's no sense to their charge of a cover-up. But saying that the State Department Security Office screwed up doesn't get you at the White House. Doesn't get the president or Susan Rice or anybody else of a high position in the line of fire, which is what they want. want. So this is what, again and again, they're trying to suggest this. Something was wrong. She said what the CIA told her. And it is, I think, as Richard said, kind of an immature exercise. And the common ritual is you go up to Capitol Hill after weeks of this, and they come out and say, okay, we kind of sorted this out. We still have some other questions. But their appearance, if they don't back up their troubles, the fact that they're troubled by this with some details, it just shows you they're not for real.
And that's the thing, right? I mean, I feel like America has a better understanding of which Sunday shows Susan Rice appeared on than what happened to Chris Stevens. I mean, in terms of revealing some grand new sort of details from this, we got nothing so far, Joy.
We've got nothing, but in addition to that, the implication of what McCain principally and his merry band of buddies are saying is that she should have given the classified version of what she was told in the CIA, right? That's the implication, because what she did was she gave the declassified version that was given to her by the people responsible for getting it, which was the CIA. So I guess what they're saying is she should have said, no, I'm not going to stop with the declassified version. I'm going to put it all out there. Everything I've learned from the classified version, which they then would have criticized for exposing national security secrets. So either way, they were going to attack her because they really just want to attack Obama.
And McCain is one of those senators who has been very tenacious as far as leaks coming from the White House and sort of looking at under every corner to make sure that this is not a piece of information that should have been kept from the public. I want to play a little bit of sound from him on Sunday, Ben, where he seemed to suggest that he would have a more of a conciliatory attitude towards UN Ambassador Susan Rice. Let's take a listen.
Is there anything that Ambassador Rice can do to change your mind about her?
Sure. She can I will give everyone the benefit of explaining their position and the actions that they took, and I'll be glad to have the opportunity to discuss these issues with her.
She could conceivably get your vote for Secretary of State?
I think she deserves the ability and the opportunity to explain herself and her position.
Ben, is this a case of bizarro John McCain, like the same guy that sort of defended President Obama against critics who said he's a Muslim, he can't be the president, and said, no, ma'am, you're wrong, and then sort of went on to nominate Sarah Palin and take the country down a different path, goes on a Sunday show and says that, and then today comes out and says what he said?
I think it's another iteration of the game John McCain's been playing for a decade, where he goes on Fox News and sounds like the moderate, and then goes on the Today Show and sounds like a hardened partisan, and each one reinforces the other. What's interesting to me about the politics of this whole case is how micro the Republicans have kept this. Susan Rice owns Libya in a very real way. She was one of the people inside that room that pushed for the invasion. If the Republicans thought they had some broader leverage here, if they thought they could make something out of Libya as a whole, which maybe they could, they would be going after that. But instead, they focused very, very narrowly on these kind of purported security, misstatements, and I think that tells you something about what they do and what they don't have.
The insistence upon the TikTok around Meet the Press versus actually what happened that night in Libya.
And you know from covering this, Alex, that when prominent administration officials go on shows like this, they get talking points. We've seen the talking points. They've come out, and they're briefed on what they can and can't say, and that's not really the issue at hand. But the fact that they're drilling down on that, I think Ben is right, shows that they have nothing about nothing. They have no other, they're not attacking the president on Syria. They're not attacking the president on Afghanistan. They're focusing on what one person said on a talk show, as if it's a major deal, comparing it to Iran-Contra. It's absurd. And, you'd like to say, I used to say this, I won't say anymore, John McCain knows better, but I no longer believe that.
You're saying it, but you're not saying it.
Exactly.
That's wonderful of you, David.